it makes a lot of sense that I ended up here.
It does.
In a
It
lot
really
of ways.
does.
Yeah.
I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I want to be like, what's that on brand moment?
Uh-huh. That was the one that I was preparing.
I'll cut this out so you could say. Welcome to Graphic Content, the podcast where we talk all things who, why, and what the fuck. Today, my guest is an interdisciplinary art. I literally had to say that again. Interdisciplinary artist. He is a writer, a curator, an event producer. Also, he is a cat dad, Luke Maddaford. Very important.
Yeah, I guess. I don't think of myself as a dad, more as like a roommate. My cat is a delinquent roommate. He doesn't pay rent, he doesn't clean, but he's very cute. So
that's what I hear from most people. I feel like cats in general, they just like own your ass when they live with you. They're not like something that you're like, oh, this is my pet.
Yeah, it's like no, we have a contract and we live together.
Did you have him when you were here?
Yeah, I got him in 2020. So
it's like a COVID kitty
now. Yeah, COVID kitty.
And so like what was that like, because like I've never really had a pet, so like what was that like traveling across the country?
It was bad.
Really? What happened?
Well, it was like when I moved, it was a 24 hours of driving, right, to get here.
So could never be like, me.
And like I would have loved to do it in like 4 or 5 days and like hang out throughout, but I was like, I have this cat with me. My movers are arriving earlier than expected, so I had to just like, okay, we're going. And my cat has just like never been outside of my apartment ever.
Oh no.
And just like didn't like being in the carrier. It was just like miserable for him. I drove 12 hours the first day, stopped at a hotel, got him in the hotel room, and he just like disappeared. And I was like, where the fuck did my cat go?
What do you mean, like you took him out?
I like brought him into the hotel room and immediately just like disappeared into some nook or cranny. And I was like, oh my God, I hope you're somewhere in the morning.
Oh my
God, I'm not dealing with this right now. But it was not fun to travel with a cat that had never traveled before. Don't recommend it.
Was it just like nonstop, like meow meow, like in the car?
No, but like I take him out to like pee and poop and he wouldn't, and then he'd just like poop in the carrier like 20 minutes later. So it's like gross. Or like he'd pee in the carrier and then he's like sitting in his own piss, and I'm like, this is just not fun for either of us, because my car smells like a litter box now. And you're covered in your own like piss and shit, and just like, ugh.
Honestly, I don't know. Like, that doesn't sound fun.
It really wasn't. And I don't know if there's a good way to travel with a cat. I think they just don't like to travel in general. But
I will say, a friend of mine, he always posts photos on social media. A shout out to Greg Brown, of him and his cat his cat's in the car. And they like go for drives with the cat, and he like hangs out. And, he sits on the what's the middle part?
On the console?
Yes, and we'll just like look out and just like hang.
Yeah, that sounds great. I wish. I think having like a well-behaved adventure cat is very rare.
Yeah, 100%. And so to give a bit of context, like, so you originally lived in Windsor, Ontario. That's how we met. And so you moved out west. And so like, just talk to me a little bit about like why you left. I know why, but I want you to talk about it.
Yeah. So I took a job in Swift Current at the Art Gallery of Swift Current. I am the curator of exhibitions and programming. So yeah, I kind of just picked up my life and moved across the country for this job, which is not something I had anticipated doing. I was
Mhm.
pretty settled in Windsor. I had kind of committed to being there. But it's one of those jobs where it's like it's kind of my dream job.
Yeah.
Maybe not my dream location, but it's like as far as curatorial work goes, a lot of it is freelance or
Mhm.
like contract based. So finding like a permanent job is few and far between. And I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
This is a job I can do. This is a job I want. Um, it'll give me like that experience under my belt, having like that institutional curatorial experience. And then I was like,
Mhm.
then if I want to leave, I have that under my belt and it'll be easier to get another institutional job after that. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's been an adventure.
I can only imagine to
it's,
like I it's a lot.
in so many ways, my life is just like absolutely different. Just like totally everything has changed, which is really weird because it's changed in good ways, but I still
Mhm.
am like mourning the loss of my old life,
Oh,
which
so,
wasn't
like, what's
bad.
different?
Well, it's like I you know me, I'm like quite a social person.
Yes.
I had an incredible network of people in Windsor that I
Mhm.
had like gathered together over the years. So it's like a big shift to just be in a new place and be like, I don't have any friends really. Like not in the same way that I did before, and like not in the same way of having that like network of people around me all the time.
Mhm.
So that's been like a bit of a shift, culturally different. Like
Yeah.
we think of Canada as like pretty similar, but like there's some really drastic cultural differences between the East and the West,
Mhm.
that you really notice when you make that shift. I also like I live in a city that has about 18,000 people, and
Girl,
like
that is
next
wild.
and the next closest city is like an hour and a half away and it only has 40,000. It's like so it's like I live in the urban hub, which is so small. So there's just it's like a really different like social culture just because it's
Mhm.
more rural. And then there's just like Saskatchewan is politically and socially so different from
Mhm.
Ontario. So there's
Oh,
that
yeah.
as well. Um, I would even say that this region is like more conservative than a lot of the other regions in
Mhm.
Saskatchewan or even out west. So yeah, it's been a real shift. I also went from like essentially doing my own thing, being
Mhm.
like really free in what I was able to do, to working for like a municipal government.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's just all kinds of like the way I approach things has to be different. I went from like working essentially for an audience that I had built myself to working for like a civic audience, like an audience that exists as part of a city, and
Mhm.
this is like their city programming. So yeah, there's been like a lot of changes, but it's been good.
You going there and just describing what you are experiencing makes so much sense for because like I've known you since 2018,
2018, yeah.
2018, yes. For a lot of what your personal practice, your like focuses on, which is like and you wrote this in the intake is like community regionality. It makes a lot of sense for you to pick up your life and go to some random spot and then collect a bit more data, a bit more
Yeah.
information, a bit more experience in like what regionality is in even more remote part of the
Yeah.
country. And so like has that inspired you or has that like kind of like filtered in through like your own work?
Yeah, it's like my personal practice, like
Mhm.
my own artistic practice, is a lot about like queerness, queer community, queerness in relation to place, and yeah, a big part of that. I grew up in a rural area. I Windsor is an urban center, but it's not a big metropolitan
No.
center by any means. So a lot of my practices has been like looking at how queer people interact with the spaces around them, how we form community, how we respond to like not having spaces or like dedicated queer space. So yeah, that's all just like an extension of that here, just like different spaces but same ideas of like, okay, how are queer people interacting with rural Saskatchewan? Like how does community form here? How can we use art to talk about some of these things that are maybe difficult for people to talk about in these areas? Um, it makes a lot of sense that I ended up here
It does.
in a
It
lot of
really does.
ways. Yeah.
I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but I want to be like, what's that on brand moment?
Uh-huh.
Like,
That was the one that I was preparing.
I'll cut this out so you could say. Oh my god, that's so funny. But no, it's true. Like I think about when we first met and just over the years of knowing you, the
Mm-hmm.
amount of history that you've taught me about the city I grew up in. Like I'm from Windsor and you're telling me about like how queerness evolved over time and the history of just the gay community in Windsor, and I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
had no fucking idea. I was like gunning to get out of here at 18, 19 and just like leave and not think about it. And so
Yeah.
to have that touch point when it like conversationally about, you know, what is the what's the scene here in Windsor or what it has been was really
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me.
Yeah, I think like a lot of my past work has been like what has this looked like in the past or what is it presently. I think now in the past year or so, and I think this is like coming with the move and a different perspective, is
Hmm.
it's a lot more of like what can be, like what are our
Yes.
possibilities. Like I don't want to be over nostalgic or like be stuck in the past or be griping about like what doesn't exist right now, but I've
Hmm.
been thinking a lot like what can exist, like what are the possibilities, whether or not we pursue them. Like I think it's important to look at what our options are,
Yeah.
like what could be here that isn't, and if we want it here, how do we go about making that happen?
And so, like, what do you think is the answer for that? Like, what would you, if, from your perspective? Because to me, I'm
Well,
like,
yeah, so like right now I'm part of a project at the Remai Modern, which is the
Mhm.
the big contemporary art museum in Saskatoon, and the project is a sustained artist mentorship program for performance and public practice. So it's like
Okay.
a hell of a name. But for this project, I've been researching the history of bathhouses in Saskatchewan.
Hmm.
There's not
Love
any
it.
right now, but
Not even
there
one.
was not even one. There was one in the early 2000s, from about 2002 to 2007, and then there
Okay.
was another one that popped up around 2017. But neither of them are open anymore. And so for this project, I'm like writing a history of these bathhouses, and I'm also like writing a speculative history of like a bathhouse that could exist, right? So it's like, what, like, yeah, there's no bathhouses here, but like, what if there was one? Like, what would it
Hmm.
look like? How would people interact with it? Like, what could that mean for this community? It's really playing into what I've been doing for years, and also just like reassessing how I'm doing it, being in a different place, but really, yeah, really thinking about the future rather than the past.
Everything that has happened in the past has gotten us to where we are today. To overlook it, I'm like, why are we doing that? Like, to me, it's created the culture of today.
Hmm.
Not everything that we want to bring forward to the future, but at
No.
the same time, I'm like, why are we going to look back at 20 years ago and say, like, in TV or pop culture and like, especially in like queer media?
Yeah, and it's okay if it was bad. Like that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes.
Like not everything in the world is going to be good. And
Yeah.
just because it's like a lot of things are bad now that we look back at them, but like 20
Yes.
years ago we wouldn't have thought are bad. But like regardless of how we feel about it or how we felt about it, it provides important context to how we navigate the world now. It's
Mhm.
influenced our decisions, it's influenced everything that's come after it in a way. Yeah, so I think it's very important to be looking at the past and to be understanding why things happened the way they did and how they happened and the impact of them. But like don't get hung up on it.
Girl, it happened. Like, let's
Like,
move on,
go
you know?
out and do something, and maybe that thing is going to be good, or maybe it'll be bad, and that's fine. And like, I don't know, there's only so much of failure that's bad, and like a lot of failure is really beneficial, and like
Mm-hmm.
it feels shitty, but like you learn a lot from failing. That's like one of the best ways to progress is to fuck up. You know?
Literally, I can't handle, especially now with like, the whole cancel culture thing. I'm like, okay, some stuff absolutely I understand. 100% I'm
Hmm.
on board with. But when it comes to like are we not allowing any space for progress or for someone to learn or to evolve or grow? Like why are
Yeah.
we blasting them to hell just because of some like a misstep? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like so I'm like, are we really going to we're going this route? This is crazy. People are
This is
nuts.
Yeah. A big thing for me is like part of one of my foundational like ethics in life is that like people are capable of doing better and should be given the
Yes,
opportunity. And it's like I don't care what they did or who they are, they should be given the opportunity. And if we live in a world where when we stop giving people the opportunity to do better, I don't want to live in that world. That's not worth living in, you know?
no,
And like there's always conversations about like separating the artist from the art, and it's like this person did some really bad things but they made some good art, but like we're not gonna consume their
support the
art
art, yeah.
anymore. I go like, since when do artists own art? Like you think that they made this film 20 years ago, that's, yeah, sure, they might profit off of it still, but it's not theirs anymore. It's like in the
No.
public consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah, we shouldn't separate them necessarily. Like the artist is obviously a part of the art, but
yeah.
just like that doesn't mean that we can't appreciate the art. You know,
Girl,
it's just one of those things where I'm like, it's like this, we don't own ideas. Like we think we own ideas, we don't own ideas. And like art
no.
is about ideas, and it's about like relationships with people, and those are things you can't own. So like to say that like they're inherently connected and owned by the person that made them just like doesn't add up for me.
And
That's
let's be
not to
real.
say that like I'm like let's watch all the Woody Allen films and whatever. It's like you know it's something, or like let's immerse our life in Harry Potter. It's like that's
Mhm.
whatever. Like if you still like the Harry Potter books, whatever. Like
Yeah.
is J.K. Rowling an absolute piece of shit? Yes.
Mhm.
Did those books influence so many people as children? Absolutely. And I
Yeah,
don't think we should be expected to like take that part of our life out. It's like, yeah, don't support that person anymore. But like, if you like Harry Potter, like Harry Potter. I think it's for children, and like
yeah,
I think it's mediocre children's books at best. But
yeah.
like J.K. Rowling does not own your childhood, and she does not own how you feel about literature and or
Literally.
storytelling. And it's
Yes.
like a book, like a movie. I don't care.
I know,
I
and
don't,
I'm sure
I don't have the capacity to care. I just like whatever.
I know, and that's the thing. I'm like, I don't seriously have
It's like,
something more in your life than hating on things.
yeah, like talk to somebody. Oh my, like create a relationship with somebody. Like I feel like so much. I feel like so much of this hate is just like undirected, and like
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
going out, 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 and with like no end goal or no like real criticism attached to it. And it's like, okay, I think we should be critical of things. I think we should be critical of institutions. I think we should be critical of
Absolutely.
people in power. I think we should be critical of celebrities. I think we should be critical of our friends. And, you know, that's all part of being a human being. But like, it doesn't have to be a big hate fest. And that's not helpful. It's like not,
No.
it's truly not helpful to anybody.
No.
And like, especially if you're trying to get a point across, being so hateful and like so embedded in your thinking is not going to help convince people of your opinion. It's going to deter them because it's off putting. It's like you want to create conversations and dialogues and like approach things with nuance because our
Mhm.
world is really complicated, and like you
Yeah.
have to approach things with new if you're not approaching things with nuance, you're missing things. And like to view the world in like such extremes is just not that beneficial to anybody, and it's just dishonest to what is actually happening in the world, you know? Like things are
100%.
so complicated. Like nothing is cut and dry. Everything is so interconnected and weird and has all kinds of different impacts to different people. And like those are the conversations that we need to be having, not these hateful, like targeted conversations. Yeah, I think an important thing to remember about all of this, like these extremisms, is like a lot of the time there's somebody profiting off of it. And you go
Yes,
like,
$100%.
is this getting really big? Are people really angry because it's benefiting somebody? And like a lot of times there's somebody down the line that is profiting off of this anger. And you go like,
100.
is that's why it's getting perpetuated? Like you know, because it benefits somebody. And
Yeah.
I think it's just the pendulum is kind of swinging back, and these things ebb and flow, and you can look throughout history how extreme division has been socially or how nuanced it's been. And it's like, this is not a new problem. It's a problem that rears its head every few years or every few decades. And like
Yeah.
a lot of it is in response to like divisive political climates or divisive social issues, but like it comes and goes. And
This is okay. And so this is what allows me to not succumb to the depression that could be. It's very easy to lean in that direction with everything going on. Like, let's be real. Focusing on the microcosm of my own existence, I'm like, let me put out some good energy. Let me this. I'm like, I love talking to people about what drives them. That is such a big thing for me that motivates me, energizes me. That's positive. That is a good thing. You know, I want to work on my business. I want to be able to support my life, and I want to interact with people that are doing good things and are good people and are not caught in the reeds online posting. Literally, I got my first hate comment recently and I'm like, okay, great. Like things are on the up and up. I have a hate comment.
Badge of honor.
Yeah, badge of honor. I'm like, I'm and it's literally like, I don't post anything crazy. That's not the platform.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing here. And somebody just wrote on one of my videos, it was me and Thomas from episode 3 on TikTok being like, who gave these men microphones? And I was like, yes! I screenshot and posted it. I was like, I love this. Because like, I know I'm not going to take first of all, a blank profile is going to comment on my shit and talk shit about me. I'm like, I'm not even doing anything to warrant, like, you know what I mean? I'm like, go for it, girl. You're helping my algorithm.
Yeah. This is the other thing is like, I don't want to say that social media is not real life, because
it's not real life.
But it is. It has like real impacts in the real world.
Of course,
and it is a real way that people interact, but it's not the world. You know, like over the last few months, I've really been like stepping away from social media. I'm like, I'm fine. It's not like I'm isolated. Well, I am kind of isolated, but that's because I live in the middle of nowhere. But like the world just keeps going, you know?
Yeah.
And that's part of the world, but that's not the whole world. And I think a lot of people get really hung up on like what people are saying online. It's like, are they saying it in real life? Like, are they saying it offline? Like, if they're not, maybe reassess what's going on.
Oh yeah. Even like recently, you know? I spent a couple weeks in the States, and people being like, oh my God, you're going to the States, like be careful. And like, because of obviously the Canada US bullshit.
Yeah.
For me, my own experience was fine. I was totally fine. Yeah. And even meeting Americans, and they're like, oh, you're Canadian. And people being like, don't tell them you're Canadian. I'm like, what? That's like, first of all, that advice is insane. Like, who cares?
Yeah, it's bad advice.
Bad advice. Literally, I'm being like, yeah, I'm Canadian, and people being like, oh, and who are American, and they're like, we're so sorry. We're so sorry about everything. Please don't hate us. And I'm like, yeah, of course not. I'm not going to hate every person in the States because of what's happening. Like, come on, that's
it's not
crazy.
Like, it's really weird to assign like responsibility to just like every individual in a country.
I'm sorry, but Suzanne didn't fucking do all this. You know what I mean? Like,
like Suzanne might have voted for somebody that ended up doing those things, and there is some sense of responsibility there, but like you can't blame just these everyday people who are just trying to get by and live their lives for
100%.
every single problem in their country. Like, likely they are also mad about it.
Yeah,
Just like we are also
100%.
mad about the issues in our country, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
I know this is such like Pollyanna bullshit, but I'm like, why can't we just get along? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I know, like, I
it's,
know, but it's,
it is probably out of bullshit,
it is.
but I think there is some, I think like, even if we can't get along, like, why aren't we making the effort? Why aren't we trying? You know, like, maybe it's not going to happen, but like, let's at least try. Let's try to find some middle ground. Let's try to relate to each other as human beings. And like, maybe we don't meet eye to eye on something, but like, that doesn't make anyone less of a person, you
A hundred
know, at
percent.
the end
A
of the
hundred
day.
percent.
And like, that's sometimes a hard conversation to have, is like, yeah, this person thinks I should be killed, but like,
Okay, yeah,
they're
that
still they're still a person, you know. Like, that's like, I'm not gonna write somebody off just because they think I should die. Like, that doesn't make them any less of a person.
I know. No, it's true. And like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can't. I cannot change someone's
No.
opinion of me. All I can do is I'm just gonna stay in my lane and focus on my own shit. I know that I'm
Yeah.
not hurting anybody. I know that doing my best in my own life to just do better in all
Yeah.
aspects, whether it's like my work, me as a human, my relationships, like all that shit. That's all I'm trying to do is do better on a daily basis and just evolve. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing that, then I'm not gonna give you my energy. I really don't care. Also, I have to say, like the amount of work that I have of yours over the years that I've collected is
Mm-hmm.
amazing. I have this vision, okay? So you have given me so many prints. I have cards from you. I have posters. I have like beautiful printed
T-shirts. I
t-shirts,
think you have tote
bags.
bags.
I
Yeah.
have literally so much of your stuff, and I am my goal and my vision for my next when I move eventually is that I would love to have an art wall behind my desk.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to like
Oh,
film
yeah.
it, and I want to. I have a stack in the closet here that I want up in my place. Like, and so much of it is
Yeah.
so beautiful, and so like to
I
me,
love
like
that.
I love that. Are you kidding? I just like I when I moved in, I already had everything framed, and I was like, hey, I don't want to like honestly, I didn't want to like spend a ton of cash and get more frames. I was
It's
like, I have a bunch of
expensive.
art. It's expensive. So, the goal is to eventually do that. But do you like realize, especially because you send out your work, you've given it to so many people, like really, if you think about it,
Yeah.
where your
Like,
stuff is,
I don't think about it often, but when I do, I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of everywhere.
it's
Like,
everywhere.
all over. Like, not just in Canada, not just in North America. It's literally like in Europe, in Australia, in Asia. Like, it's
Hmm.
everywhere. But like, that's part of what I my interest is like, I'm interested in making objects that are accessible to people, that then will have lives beyond me, beyond a
Hmm.
gallery, beyond a project, and just like be in the world. And I think that that's like, yeah, I could make art and like sell it to a collector, or like try to have a commercial practice, which isn't me. But at the end of the day, like, I want my work and my ideas to be in the world, not in collections or in museums, or
Hmm.
like, that's cool, great. If you're a museum and you want to collect my work, go for
Hit me
it.
up.
Pick me up. But like, at the end of the day, I want people wearing my stupid t-shirts and like have their keys on a stupid keychain that I made, or like, have a silly little print in their washroom or whatever that they see whenever they brush their teeth. Like,
Hmm.
that's what it is for me. It's not about selling a big piece of work. It's about all these little things that are in the world and have
Hmm.
lives of their own now. And
Oh
so
yeah,
I love that you just have because in my head I'm like, oh yeah, I gave Geo a thing. I don't think about it all. I don't
I
go
have a
like, oh
lot.
yeah, I've known Geo for 7 years and I've probably given him like a lot of stuff.
I love it, and I
Yeah.
literally I love it. I just like I recently was going through all my stuff and I'm like trying to organize because I live in a 2-bedroom condo, like it's not
Yeah.
massive. And so I have to be very particular about what I bring in. And then anytime more stuff comes in, I have to make space. And I
Hmm.
have this growing stack of art from the last, I would say almost 20 years that I'm like, I don't have room to put it all up. And so I've been saving it. And I said, like, when I have a space, I want to put that up. I forget the name of the series, but it was the Blueprints where it
Oh,
was like,
here.
yes, where it was, yes, yes,
It's
yes, yes.
yeah. Yeah,
And
that was a
so
COVID project.
it was. You mailed it out, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like
Yeah.
the ticket stubs in the. I'm gonna post that on the Instagram because I
Yeah.
definitely want to like showcase that. But like seriously, I think about your approach to your practice and like your work as an artist. Having gone to design school, living as a creative my whole life,
Hmm.
and people think about like artists and like the stereotype, and to me the approach has always been it's like the real deal, where it's not just you're talking about people who they want to be in gallery shows, and there's validity to all of those approaches to a creative path. But I feel like you embody that tried, tested, and true artist where you're in the community, you have local networks, going back to what we talked at the beginning, where you're talking
Hmm.
to like actual people. It's not just this highbrow, like, well, like you're actually like in the community making a
Yeah.
difference. You're connecting with people. Where did that come from? Like, how did you even find yourself in that route?
I think like part of it is I grew up in a town with 500 people, and
Mhm.
just like if anything's getting done, it's getting done on a grassroots level. And that just is like drilled into my head. But also, like when I went to art school, I did my first 2 years at Keano College in Fort McMurray. It's like a little community college in the middle of the boreal forest in northern Alberta. There's not a lot of artists that live in Fort McMurray. It's a big oil town, you know.
Mhm.
It's got a very different reputation that is not artistic. Getting introduced into the art world in that context, that is also a context where it's like you want something to happen, you get it done yourself. Like,
Uh-huh. Yeah,
like
go
we're
do it.
like nobody cares about us. Like nobody said that, but it was like, yeah, they don't really care about us. So like
Mhm.
you kind of have the freedom to do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then yeah, after that I moved to Calgary, and when I lived in Calgary there was a really big like grassroots movement in the arts. There's like garage galleries, and I went to the Alberta College of Art and Design, and there's just like every possible alcove that you could put art in. Some student had like given that alcove a title, and it was a gallery, and they were programming exhibitions in like a corner of a
Yeah.
hallway, you know. And so like that those things just like stayed with me and have
Mhm.
stayed with me. And like I don't know, I've been at this for like 15 years now, which is like kind of a long time now that I think about it, but
We're
it's
we're
weird.
not we're not children
we're,
anymore. That's the
we're, we're, we're not little twinks anymore, Gia.
no, no. It's like I'm gonna be 37 this year. It's actually crazy.
We're getting up there. We're
Yeah.
doing well.
Uh-huh.
But like being able to look back over those years and go like, okay, what are the things that were important to me? Like what,
Yeah.
like when I think about like success and how I want to gauge success and whether or not I'm successful. Um,
That's your
I
definition, though.
Yeah, exactly. Is my
Like, not
definition.
to sound cheese, but
And I look back and I go like, okay, when did I feel the most successful? Is it when I showed at the Art Gallery of Windsor, which was like the first time I showed at a like big regional gallery?
Mhm.
No. Sometimes I forget that I showed there. Like like one of my favorite exhibitions that I had was in a pheasant coop in northern Ontario, because I had a really great experience with shout out to Between Pheasants Contemporary in Kearns County,
I
Ontario. Shout
love
out
it.
to Alex Rondo. That's his space. And yeah, it was just like it was really nice to connect with Alex. over that show, put it together, and it felt really honest to be like showing my work in a rural space
Mm-hmm.
and like be talking about like queer ruralism in an actual middle of nowhere
Yeah.
like pheasant coop, you know?
Yeah.
And that's I go like that feels successful to me. So like looking back, it's those little things, it's those moments of community connection. It's building networks. It's
Mm-hmm.
really like even when we met, we had connected online first, but then I had an exhibition at the Arts Council Windsor region, and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing something in the space. I don't know what I was doing, but you were just walking by because it's
Yeah.
right by the art lab, and your office was there, I think, at that
Yeah.
time, and you just like came in and we started chatting, and like that that show, I had a lot of really really great conversations about the work in that show,
Mm-hmm.
and like that wasn't a fully formed exhibition for me. It was kind of like, I'm gonna rent this space, I'm gonna put up a bunch of stuff I've been thinking about, a bunch of stuff I've been working on, and like kind of see what sticks. And but
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I need to get something out there, I need some kind of feedback from people. And yeah, it was like having conversations about the work and about people's experiences, and like that felt really successful to me, you know?
Yeah.
And like those are the things that I want to cling on to. And those are the things that like going forward, it's like how do I make those connections? How do I create environments where like people can have these conversations, people can start to think about history and the future in new ways, who can start to think about like their role in their community and how they relate to people. And like that's really, I keep coming back to it because that's what feels the most honest and the most important to me, and that's what feels like success to me, you know, is like
Yeah.
creating those moments.
I think about, you're showing at a big gallery show in a big city.
Hmm.
How many of those people you're actually talking to and connecting with in a face-to-face way? I know that the glamorized,
Hmm.
vision that people have for themselves, and like once again, validity in all paths.
Yeah.
What you're saying hits true to me because I think the work that I'm doing feels more impactful when I'm helping like a small business.
Hmm.
Somebody who I'm able to help them feel like they are so confident now that they can go out into the world and sell their service, their product, whatever.
Hmm.
And that's making real impact because that's a small business, mom and pop shop, whatever. And I'm going to help I keep my Italian hands. That's going to help them on their trajectory in a way that is much more
Yeah.
impactful than a conglomerate that I help. I look at, you're going back to like these doing the art gallery of Windsor. I'm like, I did a huge project for Amazon. I bleep that
Hmm.
out, whatever. I've showed at a fashion week, and I'm like, none of that. I love those projects. They're great.
Hmm.
I love the work. It's not something that I'm like,
They hit different,
yeah, it's so
you know.
different because
They tickle a different part of your like creative energy.
yes,
And that's not to say that like those big projects can't also have similar impact, but
hmm,
like it's a lot harder to have that like individual community impact when you're like disconnected from it in that way. It's possible, but it's so much harder. And I think there's something really special about a small scale that
hmm,
allows us to like make those connections a lot easier.
yeah. What's that saying about think globally, act locally? Like I know
Yeah,
that's the cheesiest thing, but it's honestly
it's
true.
true.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's real.
When things are feeling difficult, or like you feel like you can't do anything about an issue in the world, act locally. Like
Hmm.
commit to your community and you'll
Yeah.
feel better. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. And you'll feel like you're making a difference, and you are.
100%. That's been my like saving grace from moving back to Windsor from a larger
Hmm.
city is that I'm like, oh, I can get a little bit further ahead here and actually make impact. And I'm not saying this like I want to change the world and make impact.
Hmm.
It's more like just actually feel like the efforts that I'm putting out into the world are making a difference.
For me, part of it is like, am I, is what I'm doing in the world just for me, or is
Yeah.
it for somebody else? And like, yeah, I do things for myself.
You
but
you should.
but like but like a lot of it is like, okay, this is about somebody else too. And that's like yeah, maybe it doesn't feel like a big world changing impact, but like that's an impact and that's important. At the end of the day, most of us are probably more influenced by individuals in our communities that we interact with than large scale worldwide things, you know?
100%.
Let's focus there.
So on that topic, to me, one of the biggest impacts, and it was a time, one night, it was one night only, but that fruit basket party was chef's kiss. Honestly, the everything that you're saying, all of the no, but seriously, so
I know.
like legit, like it was all of the things that we've talked about in the last however many minutes, it
Mm-hmm.
all rolled into one. Community outreach, there was co-creation, collaboration. So I want you to talk a little bit about that because I'm gonna manifest the fuck out of you being an event producer because you did a great job, especially
That's
for Windsor.
I I love throwing a party. You know I love throwing a party.
You know I love
Um
it. Like you've been to
yeah.
many of my parties.
Yeah, you also great parties. Gio,
Love throwing
always party. Yeah, Fruit Basket, that would have been in
2019.
2019. Yeah. So I had previously been running Left Contemporary out of a garage space in the Walkerville neighborhood of Windsor. And then I had brought some friends onto the project and we rented a space downtown Windsor. We were gonna do studio space and have the little gallery there. And Fruit Basket was kind of like we had just gotten into the space. We kind of wanted to do like a kickoff party, and this is where the selfish part comes in because we did it during Windsor Pride. Windsor Pride does great work. They do really good programming. They have
Yeah,
a
they
great
do.
festival, but I wanted a party where I could dance in my underwear. And they weren't offering that. That was just like
Yes.
not part of their programming. Most of their programming was like very family friendly. Even like the kind of parties that they threw were just not the vibe I was looking for. So
Yeah.
I very selfishly said I'm going to throw a queer dance party during Pride at the same time as their dance party.
Hmm.
And I'm going to dance in my underwear and I'm gonna book some great DJs and like really create a fun space. And we did that.
We
And it
did that.
like it's one of those events that I look back on and I went, everything just went so well with that event. Like I've planned lots of events in my life, whether it's like exhibitions or parties or fundraisers or whatever. There's always like tech issues or like people are late or like there's always something that happens where
Hmm.
that's out of your control and it's just like a hiccup. And
Girl.
like that party, there was no hiccups. There was like no issues at the party. It's like it didn't have to kick anyone out for being too drunk or
Hmm.
rowdy or anything like that. Everyone was really respectful of the space. And
Yeah.
and as far as I know, everyone was quite respectful of each other. But again, that's like something I can't control. Yeah, it was just like a really, really fun party. And like so many great people came out. It's one of those things that like it comes up like this is 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
And it comes up fairly often where people
Yeah.
will be like, that party was so fun. When I was in Windsor, people would be like, oh, when are you throwing like another party like that? I don't know.
It
But
can't just be
yeah,
one and done. There's got to be a
yeah,
follow up at some point because it was
yeah.
so. I loved it because I was like, 2019, I had just moved back to Windsor,
Hmm.
2018. Having lived in Toronto for so long, I was like, I was used to having any type of event, any
Yeah,
style, any flavor. You want to go something a little more underground, a little more like sexy, whatever. Like there's all types of parties, but you're there, like that's not really a thing. And
no,
so when we had that, I was like, this is and like the music that we had was not like typical like dance music. It was like
no.
that. I love that like funk disco.
David is such a good DJ. He did
Oh my
such a
god,
good job.
David's amazing. Like
Yeah.
David, if you're listening, the love is still there. Like we,
We know you're in Vancouver now, but we still
yeah,
love you.
we absolutely do. Everybody's leaving.
Yeah.
I still talk about it with my sister. Like we went
Hmm.
together and we went with some friends and had such a good time. It really was like the grassroots approach. Like, we're gonna just like build it from the ground up, just do what we can within our, and by we I mean you and you.
I did. There was other people helping organize it. It's kind of my project, but I didn't do everything all on my own.
You
For
spearheaded
example,
it.
Geo did all of the visual graphics for promotion, which
It
were
was
really
so
lovely.
fun. Honestly, like, I still love that project. It was such a good time.
It was really fun, and really was just like, I want to dance in my underwear. How can I make that happen? Like, I
That's
can dance in my underwear in my apartment, but it's like, I want to be in a crowd of people dancing in my underwear. I want to be drunk in my underwear in public on the street.
yes.
Like,
I know. Oh man.
that was my goal. That was like the thing I wanted out of that party, which is like very selfish. It wasn't about like creating an opportunity for community to connect or anything. It's like, no, I want to party in my underwear. I want to get drunk around queer people in my underwear.
Yeah, but that's okay. But that is honestly a lot of things and ideas happen based on a
Yeah.
selfish. For me, this whole thing was selfish. I was like, if it helps someone down the road, that wasn't the intention. But honestly, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with you saying I want. Also,
Oh.
that's fully going to be the name of this episode is I want to dance in my underwear.
Yeah, it's like, and like looking back, it is one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think maybe it was successful because I was able to capture the feeling I wanted, and it
Hmm.
was also a feeling other people wanted, and that's like,
100.
that's kind that's kind of a risk, right? And that's a risk with a lot of my work, is like, even like this project with bathhouses. It's like, I love bathhouses. I want to talk about bathhouses. I want to do a project about like a fictional bathhouse,
Yeah,
but like, I hope other people connect with that. Like, I hope I think they will, but
yeah.
like, it's that risk of like, I'm kind of pursuing this selfishly because I'm interested in it and I want to see
Hmm.
it happen, and I just hope that other people also have that interest and that hope for it to happen. And like
Oh
with
yeah,
Fruit Basket, that's exactly what happened. Like, there's people at that party who I had never seen before. It's like, I
yeah.
don't know where they came from. I don't know how they heard about it, but like, they had a fun time, and that's great. And
Hmm.
like, that's a win.
I'll say this: I was at a one of my friends showed at a gallery. Have you been to the? It's that gallery space it's in Walkerville and it is right next to the Loft building. And it's like a huge warehouse that got
Oh
put.
yeah, show.
Yes, thank you. Show.
Yeah.
So I went to that, and there was somebody who came up to me, and she's like, "Hey, you're Geo." I was like, "Oh hi," and she goes, "Oh," she's like, "I remember you from the banana, the banana collage with from the party."
From
I
the
was like,
party.
"From the party." I was like, "Oh my god!" She's like, "You did the branding for that party with Luke." I was like, "That's amazing!"
That is
6
amazing.
years later, it's like so
Yeah.
funny.
That I love that. You did that banana collage.
The banana collage, yeah. Like I was like, I love it. It still
I
lives
love
on.
that.
And I would
Mhm.
love to do that again. Like to me, and you've seen like I love to host parties. Like
Yeah.
even though it's like at my place or whatever. But I like to curate an experience, and so to be part of something like that, even if I wasn't involved in the actual event, but just in
Mhm.
helping to market the event, I love that because to me, I'm like let's create an experience. Like I know it sounds so
Yeah.
silly, but it's such a fun prod. I love working on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. If I wouldn't have been planning a cross country move at the same time as planning my going away party, that's what I wanted my going away party to be.
Oh,
I,
that
I
would have been
really
so
wanted to
fun.
do like a full big event. I just didn't have the time. I was
Hmm.
planning a move across the country. That's still a fun event. There's so many people there. It's very, very lovely.
You must have
Um,
felt loved. Your send off was
I
busy.
did. It was busy. It was bumping. It
Yeah.
was, yeah. There was like 70 people there, which is stupid. Like,
But it's not though. Like I know like when it's when it's you and you're thinking about it, you're like, oh my God. Like, but as somebody who, I've known you now, like we've been saying, you have worked with, connected with, befriended so many people here that like when you
yeah.
left, I was like, I get it. Like I will always support people to follow their path. But at the same
Hmm.
time, I was like, really? You have to leave? Like, like, come on.
All.
No, like, it's just like, you have that we have that, we don't talk every day. We're not that type of
No.
friends, but it's
Yeah.
like when I see you, we're like right back in it. And that to
Oh
me is like
yeah.
the stands the test of time. But at the end of the day, I'm genuinely so happy for you. And the fact that you're following whatever it is that's driving you
Yeah.
towards just experiencing life. Like, let's be real, that's really what you're doing. You're just living your life.
Yeah, I am. I just want to have a nice little life.
Hmm.
Just want to do the things I want to do. And if
Yeah.
nobody's making them happen, I'll make them happen, you know?
And so, like, right now, what are you working on that's for you?
Yeah, so I'm working on this bathhouse project with the Remy.
Hmm.
I'll be putting out a little publication. I am doing like a multiple of keychains, and the key is a bottle opener that I'll be giving away to people. And
Fun.
it'll be presented as a performance piece. And that's going to be happening probably sometime in June. I don't have exact dates yet. So I'm working on that. But I've also got an exhibition coming up in Regina at Neutral Ground Artist Run Center.
Hmm.
That'll open in October. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. So this like my whole summer is going to be making work for that exhibition.
Can you talk about what you're doing for that, or is that kind of like a TBD?
It's not a TBD. It's just like not totally fully formed.
Gotcha.
But I'd love to talk about it. It just like might not be exactly what happens in October.
That's fine.
Part of the project is like thinking about like I alluded to this earlier is that like I don't really have any friends here. And thinking about like isolation in terms of queerness, and I was working on some writing. I started it a few years ago and it's kind of just been there. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with it. But it's called The Only Fag at the Party, and it's about being the only queer person at a party and how much it sucks, and like
Oh, we've all
how many
been
times
there.
how many times I've been at a party and like somebody says something and I'm just like looking around for any queer person who can like make eye contact with me and be like, what the but like but that when you're the only at the party, that doesn't happen.
100%.
So I'm so I'm revisiting this writing and kind of thinking about being the only fag at the party and
Hmm.
like that isolation, and thinking about that in relation to like regional isolation. And so this summer I'm going to be traveling all over Saskatchewan and taking photos and kind of making work in response to like these different spaces, with the idea of being like, these are all places where you could meet a queer person. Like
Yeah.
in these rural towns, I just want to be like, I was here. That means a queer person was here. That means that you could meet a queer person there, you know? And
100%.
just like, just kind of opening it up and being like, yeah, you can meet queer people anywhere, and like look at all these spaces in our province, look at all the things, all the potential. Again, like coming back to like what can be, what
Yeah.
can we do, not what has existed, but like what do we want to do. So
Hmm.
like part of it is really just like exploring the province, documenting the province. Is a little bit of like a love letter to Saskatchewan
Yeah.
landscape art, which is like a really big thing here, right? So yeah, it's a little bit of a love letter to the province, a little bit of a like be queer wherever, and a little bit of like come to the party with me. You know, like
Yes.
I don't have to be the only fag at the party. You don't have to be the only fag at the party. Like part of the exhibition is like an invitation for people to be at the party. You know, like be openly queer, be in these spaces, be a queer person wherever you want, and like let's do it. We're at the same party, you know? Like we can make it work.
I
Um
love it.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I also am like really like the title of the exhibition is Fruit to Fruit.
Keeping it. I love it.
Which I think is just like kind of a funny thing of saying like a message from a queer person to another queer person, right?
I love
Um
that.
so I think I'm gonna play with some like fruit imagery in that as well, and kind of play into that. But yeah, it's kind of like this idea of like what's in this province, what can we make this province into in terms of queerness and queer relationality, and come to the party.
I love it. I honestly love the way that you approach your work, like genuinely, because you actually
Thank you.
you think about you're there's a lot of thought that goes into it. Like a lot of what I do is brand related, so it's very specific in how I approach it. You know what I mean? You're not
Yeah,
it's not as
you're
creative.
working for somebody else, right?
Yeah,
That's
like I'm working to bring their vision to life, and so
yeah,
to hear someone talk about their work in a way that is not through the lens of customer base.
yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
I just can't. I can't. I'm not that guy. I can't do
Yeah.
that. I hate selling stuff. I
Mhm.
hate like it's not. It's there's people who are really well suited to it. There's people whose work is really well suited to it.
Mhm.
There's a whole industry around that, and
Yeah.
it's not me.
And
I'm
that's
I'm gonna
great.
make silly little projects with my ideas that I want to disseminate into the world, and
Okay, but
that's
I'm gonna
that's it
stop
for
you.
me.
I'm gonna stop
Yeah,
you because not to like be whatever, but like like just remove the silly part because we're literally talking about something that you did 6 years ago and it
yeah.
still is in my brain. And so to say it's like a silly little project, I'm like, yeah, but you've genuinely
I yeah.
created memories and created impact. So like, don't sell
I
yourself
don't
short.
I don't want to undermine it by calling it silly. I
Mhm.
want to call it silly in that like it can be fun.
It's very fun.
I can be a very serious person, and I risk my work being too serious. So I intentionally say it's a silly project
Okay, good.
to keep myself grounded in the like it doesn't have to be like with this bathhouse project, I'm doing a history, right?
Mhm.
Like history's so serious and boring.
So
It's like
serious.
I could do a silly little history, you know? Like I can make it fun.
Yes,
Like
yes,
not to undermine its value, but to like value it in a different way, right? Like
100%.
let's value that silliness. Like it's not a bad thing; it's a good thing. I
I
want to do
know.
silly little projects. Like I want people to enjoy things, and as much as I want to be taken seriously, who cares? Like you know,
But
like
I love that.
I want to do a silly thing, and that's fine. You know.
Yes. Okay, good. Because like you know where I'm coming from though. Like I'm
Yeah.
not.
Oh no, I know
Yeah.
exactly where you're coming from, and like very good host to interject and say like, don't undermine yourself, my special guest.
Yes. No, but it's true. I genuinely you have done so much and like you know what people say, like especially when you're starting something like this where they're like, oh, you want to get
Mhm.
like people who have huge followings to get, and I'm like, great, eventually I'm sure that'll happen, but at the same time I'm
Yeah.
like, I have so many people that I know who are f***ing awesome that I want to talk to and bring them on, and like even my my 50-person audience
Hmm.
have that. Oh my god, I gotta stop hitting my mic.
Gotta
I'm
stop being so Italian.
I know, right? I did a composite of like multiple screenshots of me in different episodes where I'm talking with my hands and I'm like I'm purely I'm a f***ing Italian,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean though. Like I genuinely I have so many people that are just like good and doing such amazing work, and I don't give a about the numbers. Like people being like, "Oh, you want
Hmm.
people to?" I'm like, I have so many interesting people that I can talk to who are just like me, or they have mid followings in the sense that there's like it's just like a normal amount, but
Yeah.
in that small, it's like the community thing that you're talking about. In that small group of people that are like are all about you and your work and what you're doing in the world. I would rather have a direct impact with the people that I know versus some random in another part of the world who's telling me that I need to shut the fuck up because I'm a white man with a microphone. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
so I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just so thankful that you came and chatted with me.
I, I'm flattered to be asked, but I think it also like goes back to our conversation about success. Is like
Hmm.
you're not seeing success as that big follower number,
No.
right? And like because you've let go of that, you're talking to people who have success in different ways that don't necessarily have a lot of followers, but are like doing good, important, interesting
Yes.
things and have like interesting things to say.
So I do have a question for you though. We talked about very briefly branding. how that world is not for you. But at the same time, you have in your own way created a very specific brand for yourself. As somebody who's
Mhm,
known you for so many years, I'm like, yeah, your brand is
mhm.
stamped to me.
Yeah.
So I ask this to every guest, and I want to know, this can go personal, professional, but if you were to look at your life and do like a Google Earth view of it, what would you say is the most on brand thing that you've ever done?
Yeah, so we did talk about this a little bit earlier, and I will say that, like, one of my faults is that I'm relentlessly on brand.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets me in trouble. But I think the most on brand thing that I've done up to this point is moving to Saskatchewan and
Hmm.
taking this job, and really with the goal of being like a queer person in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think it is very on brand for me. I get to go on the country radio station and talk about like queer film screenings, and on this radio station that goes out into rural Saskatchewan. It's like that is so on brand for me.
That's
Like that just makes sense.
okay. Wait, so hold on. When did that happen?
This happened last summer. But
Okay.
I'm on the country radio station all the time promoting stuff at the art gallery. So like when we did a queer film screening, I was on there promoting queer film screenings. It's like when there's a queer artist and talking about their art on the radio station. It's just like it feels really special. It's like that's one of those things where it's like, of course I want to talk about queer art on the country radio station in rural Saskatchewan, but like I wouldn't have ever tried to,
But I'm
but it's
obsessed
just
with
like,
that.
yeah, me too. Me too. But yeah, I think that like kind of the move and what's come with it has
Mhm.
been one of the most on brand things I've ever done. And I think like you've known me for 7-ish years, and probably if somebody said one of your friends is going to move to rural Saskatchewan and like be doing queer art there,
Yeah, I
you'd
mean,
be like,
duh.
yeah, it's Luke.
It's Luke for
Like,
sure.
who the fuck else would it be? Like, who else is going to do that?
But I love it. And think about it, like going back to what we talked about impact,
Mhm.
not to sound cheese and whatever, but you have no idea, who is listening to those radio shows and who would hear your voice
My gay
speak.
little voice, yeah.
I didn't even mean that,
No, but it's true. It's like I
yes,
I have a gay voice, and like
yeah,
when I'm on the radio, I'm using my gay voice,
yeah,
and it's going into like farmers' tractors while they're farming, like in rural Saskatchewan. But yeah, it is like who is hearing it, and like I grew up in rural Saskatchewan as like a little queer boy who didn't know any queer people, didn't
mhm,
have there was like no visibly queer people that were out that I knew of growing up. And I look back and go like, yeah, like seeing one visibly out queer person who is like not ashamed or like just like didn't give a
yeah,
would have been a game changer for me,
yeah,
to just be like, yeah, maybe that's not who I'm going to be, but like, that is a person that exists. And like, I can be a person that exists too, whether it's like that or not. But I think in a lot of ways, I'm maybe a little bit more out there and extreme in my queerness than a lot of people, especially a lot of people in more rural areas. But
mhm,
I think like the bigger I am in that sense, like the more space I'm creating. So
yeah,
whether somebody wants to exist on the fringe of what I'm doing in like a more extreme way, they can, but like if they want to exist in the center, like I'm making that space and they can kind of exist wherever they want. And
yeah,
so it feels kind of special to it's so as I'm saying it out loud, it sounds so stupid, but like it feels really special to be a queer person in a rural place. Like
yeah,
it feels really special to me.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what kind of impact I'm making. Maybe like all the queer people are like, don't want to be like him. Like who
And
knows?
that's fine, and
But
that's totally
and that's
fine.
and that's fine. But like at the end of the day, I just want to. have a life that I like. And I'm wherever I am, whether it's in rural Saskatchewan or in southwestern Ontario or in northern Alberta, I am gonna live a life that like gives me pleasure and satisfaction. And I'm gonna make an environment where that's possible for me.
Yeah. And you're doing it in a way that is not detrimental to other people. Like you're actually
Oh
it's a
yeah.
positive, you know what I mean? But like think
Yeah.
about it, you're going back to like this, selfish decisions or whatever how people
Hmm.
selfish directions in
Yeah.
their art. But like you're doing something that is anyway, I'm going to blow a little smoke, but like I'm just very like appreciative of what you're doing even though I'm not directly affected by it. And I think that it's like you said very on brand for your approach to how you put your message out to the world, whatever that is.
Hmm.
And so keep doing it, girl. Like I'm very proud of you.
I have a question for you, Gio.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Um, I was a little bit surprised that you had a video podcast, not just an audio podcast,
Hmm.
because I just figure everyone would be so distracted by how handsome you are that they couldn't listen to
Oh, thanks, girl. Honestly, it was so what's the question?
it. Why the video?
Why the video? Honestly, I think it's the world we live in. Like I think
Yeah,
that I just didn't want to not potentially use that avenue to push the project forward. Like I don't know. Like to me, like my
this
goal in this,
so much of the way that people absorb information now is video clips, right?
I'll
So,
say this, even though I have a small viewership, I have way more traction on YouTube and Instagram than I do on like Spotify. Like the audio
mhm.
format is like very slow to grow. Which, if you guys want to go check it out, it's graphic content. I was gonna say geographic, but no. But honestly, like it's the video. I get way more views on
Yeah,
video than I do on audio. So yeah, that was my reasoning. I was like, I
that,
would feel like I would miss out.
yeah. That's what I figured. I just wanted to use it as an opportunity to flatter you.
Thank you. Oh, it's so kind. I need to have you on again. Yeah, no, I honestly like and like I don't want to put myself out there like in that way. Like that
Yeah.
was not something, but I'm like, I said to myself, I'm like, I'm playing the game. I'm just gonna play the game. This is the world we live in. And like I don't know. I will say though, the first now that like I have from vacation, like I have more of a tan. I'm like, okay, I feel better about it. But like I look back, I'm getting better lighting. Like I'm just of every
Yeah.
episode, I'm evolving a little bit more. It's getting a little bit more tweaked and judged and whatever. But like those first few were so rough, and like I had a friend of mine being like, "Oh, you're finally feels like you're actually like yourself in like episode 6 or 7." And the first few, it felt so like, and I'm like, yeah, because I'm literally staring at myself as I'm recording
Yeah.
myself, and I'm like, oh my god, like
It's
I'm
like
starting to.
honestly, it's all in your head. It's not all in your head, but like you're gonna notice that way more than anyone else is gonna notice it.
Do you see this? Do you see
You see
this?
this?
Yeah, exactly, girl. I'm right there with you. I'm like, I keep having to like fluff up my front part to hide the like. It's just. So thank you. I appreciate
No
it.
one else cares. No one else cares,
No one
Gio.
else cares what I do.
Everyone is just like, oh, he's cute.
Thanks, girl. I appreciate it. I love you. Oh my
Uh,
god. So if anybody who is watching would like to get in touch with you, follow your work, follow you online, like where can they connect with you?
right now, the best way to do it is on my website.
Mhm.
I'm putting out a newsletter. Probably this weekend will be my first one.
I
I'm
can't
trying to
wait to receive
transition.
it.
Yeah, I'm trying to transition off of social media.
Yeah.
It's just been like really too much for me.
Yeah.
And it's like I just chat with my friends there anyways. I can chat with them elsewhere.
Yeah.
you know? Like
And
so
a newsletter is a great way to do it.
yeah. So I'm transitioning. You can follow my newsletter on my website. You can find me on my website. If you happen to be driving down the Trans Canada Highway through Saskatchewan and you pass through Swift Current, you can find me at the Art Gallery of Swift Current. You can see some of the
Amazing.
work that I've been doing there. Pay attention to the Remai Modern social media. They're going to be promoting my bathhouse project in the next few months. Might have already happened by the time this came out, but I think it's happening June, but like the dates aren't totally set, so it might be July. But you can read about it on their website either way.
Okay, I'll put that in the show notes, but I want you to go back. I'm going to put it in so people can click on it, but what is your website? You didn't even say it.
Oh, look, Maddaford.com.
I'm like sitting, I'm like, go on my website, go to the website. I'm like, what's the website?
If you look up my name on the internet, you will find me. You'll also find a rugby player in Australia, but you'll know he's not me.
I'm excited to get your newsletter, and I know when you posted that, and I was like, I want that. I want something like a good newsletter in my inbox, not this fucking shit that I didn't even sign up for.
Or like somebody selling you something, or it's just gonna be like what I've been up to lately, some photos of my life, maybe a photo of my cat, maybe some like upcoming projects. It'll be chill.
I look forward to it. And to anybody who would want to connect with me over some design, you can reach out to me through geographic.com at my website. Follow the podcast. I'm on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, TikTok. My TikTok was temporarily banned. Now it's back up and running. Luke, I just want to thank you so much for taking time to do this. Like, honestly, I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's always fun. It's always fun to chat with you. If you're thinking of working with Gio, he's great to work with. Pleasure to be around.
Thank you so much. Your business. Yes, please. I have a trip at the end of the year. I gotta go.
Help him pay for vacation.
Yeah, this is my version of putting out a Venmo link or what's it called? What are they?
GoFundMe.
GoFundMe. Yeah. Oh my god. Anyway, bye guys.
Bye.